Mr. L live and that boy leveled. Boy leveled. Boy leveled. Mr. L live and that boy leveled. Boy leveled. Boy leveled. Mr. L live. Mr. L live and that Mr. L live and that boy leveled. Boy leveled. Boy leveled. Boy leveled. Mr. L live and that boy leveled. Boy leveled. Boy leveled.
This is the story of an untold legend inscribed outside of time. There is a being who seeks to unshackle itself from time's immutable force. To find this chamber, destroy the 6 books of Historia, and unlock the 7th forbidden book, plunging the fate of Hyrule into chaos.
What's up, people? It's your boy Levelhead back with another live and leveled gamers podcast. I am doing it solo dolo by my lonesome this time, but I do have a special guest. He's pulled me out of the dark. He pulled me out the woodworks, man. Got me back on the podcast to talk some Zelda. So, introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, it's TriForce. I'm back with the news from Zelda. Now that Hyrule Warriors is out, and we got some real goodies coming out, man. We got some real goodies coming out.
Yes. I've been seeing. You sent me this information via Twitter a few days ago, dealing with the alteration to the Order of Time. So I figured, why not, jump on a podcast and sit down and let you talk and explain, to the listeners what you got going on. But before we get into all that, you know how I do, Triforce.
Yeah.
What you gaming on? I know you got the 3DS. I'm pretty sure I know what you're finna say.
Believe it or not, for the first time in a very long time, I have just been Hyrule Warriors in it up. That's it. That's literally it. That in Tetris. Well, because I'm working on the Order of Time project, so because of that, I have to get into Hyrule Warriors, and it's funny because Hyrule Warriors has I don't even know how to say this. Hyrule Warriors has given me all the tools, all the platforms in terms of plausibility to the lore of Hyrule and the Legend of Zelda to make everything work.
Wow. See, I haven't got the opportunity. I plan on getting Hyrule Warriors at that moment when that game came out. At the time that game came out, I was low on funds. And then I was really anticipating what I'm playing right now, which is Bayonetta 2. So I went on and bought it. And I'm really thoroughly enjoying Bayonetta 2. Man, it's so much I can say about the game. And I plan on getting Hyrule Warriors probably later on, middle of next month, because I'm going to get that and, of course, Smash Bros. For the Wii U. But I've been playing this Bayonetta 2, man, and, dude, it was kind of overwhelming when I first started playing it. Because it's so fast.
Okay.
Man, Triforce, I'm used to games like God of War or Ninja Gaiden, where they have a little heaviness. Now, Ryu is pretty fast, but Bayonetta is like twice his speed. You know what I'm saying? So it was a little daunting because for a while it looks like a blur. You really can't keep up with what she's doing because her moves are not necessarily limited. You can pretty much go as you please. And so after I figured out how to control her and got her to where I can manipulate her like I wanted to, man, this game is really just blowing me away, and the polish of the game is just crazy. So I'm looking forward to Hyrule Warriors as well. I've been hearing a lot about it. A few people that I follow on YouTube and on Twitter have been talking about how great it is, man. So my boy S4Y got it. He's been talking about it a lot, and I'm looking forward to playing that game as well. So, but you say Hyrule Warriors gave you a lot of insight. Kind of elaborate on that a little bit.
All right. So, first of all, I don't want to ruin it for anyone.
Okay.
And I will say this right now. Hyrule Warriors is not the imprisoning war. That's a fact, which is a good thing. That's a good thing because it leaves the imprisoning war to come up later on. So
okay, pause right there.
Yeah.
Explain, okay, because okay, let me say this. Let me set this up. All right. TriForce, remember last year we had a podcast talking about what you call the Order of Time, right?
Yes. Okay.
And how you broke down how the Zelda Historia,
Hyrule Historia,
Hyrule Historia didn't have it right. And
yes,
because they had multiple timelines, right?
Correct.
And you felt that it was impossible to have multiple timelines. There was only one timeline. And this one timeline, all this is existing in one timeline, and you kind of broke down. I'm going to leave this podcast in the description for anyone that want to go back and listen to it. It was very good. You broke down how each game pretty much was placed in the timeline, and how the very first Zelda that we played actually was not the start of the story. And you really broke it down. So you say that Hyrule Warriors has in some way impacted your view. So, and the Hyrule Historia, I don't know where is that at now since your view has been changed.
All right. First off, let me start off by saying this. Hyrule Warriors has, first of all, the game has something to do with time. That's the best part about Hyrule Warriors.
Okay.
And its ending has allowed me to really look at time in a more expansive point of view, both forward and backwards in time. And I don't want to give it away too much because by the time the first chapter of The Order of Time is done, it will explain everything with Hyrule Warriors. So I want to try to keep it as limited as possible with Hyrule Warriors. But I will say this. Because of Hyrule Warriors and because I've looked at the entire timeline that I've mentioned earlier in your previous podcast, I will say this. There is a unique story that I am writing. Now, you're going to be like, that's impossible, but it is possible. There is a unique story that I am writing that allows Hyrule Historia, my timeline theory, and the original story that I'm writing for the Order of Time all to exist canon.
Okay.
And everything happens. Everything. Hyrule Historia happens, it all happens. Everything is canon. It makes everything canon. So the Nintendo who made the book, they can keep Hyrule Historia. It happened. So the fans who disagree and agree with my streamlined timeline that I mentioned on your previous podcast, that happens. They can keep that. They're happy. And the original story that I'm doing here pretty much supports both timelines. And I'm going to read you something here. I want to read you something here because once I read this to you, you'll probably you'll truly get to understand and appreciate what I'm trying to do, because this is the intro. Have you seen the trailer?
Yes, I've seen the trailer.
Okay, but for those who have not seen the trailer, let me read you the trailer's intro because there's a part that I wrote out for it. So it pretty much says, this is a story, right, of an untold legend inscribed outside of time. So the original story that I'm working on for the Order of Time, it's taking place outside of time, the timeline in the Legend of Zelda. So what happens outside of this timeline is not affecting Hyrule Historia or what's actually happening. Okay. But at the very same time, it gives a chance to illustrate the timeline theory that I'm talking about at the same time have something going on in this story. But it talks about it goes on to say there's a being who seeks to unshackle itself from the immutable force of time to find the chamber, destroy the 6 books of Historia, and unlock the 7th forbidden book, meaning there are 6 more books of Historia. Once these things happen, the fate of Hyrule will be plunged into chaos. And that's pretty much what like the intro starts, and then it does the tick tock, and it says the Legend of Zelda: The Order of Time. So there's obviously a villain, an antagonist who and I get it's funny because this antagonist is perhaps the greatest antagonist in the entire history of Zelda. I don't want to ruin it for you. It's a character that has appeared once in the Legend of Zelda series. That's the biggest hint I can give. It has only appeared once. This will be its second appearance ever. So the way this entire web series is going to end, it's going to end like I won't finish it. I'll finish all the games and the timeline, but something is going to happen at the very end that sets up Nintendo to create a video game based on it. Okay. And if Nintendo creates this video game, it literally straightens out everything. It straightens out the whole timeline. It makes everything canon. Everything makes sense, and it is not complicated neither. That's the best part about it. That this whole timeline thing becomes simplified, so easy a baby can get it.
Okay. Now let me ask you this. Oh, go ahead. My bad.
Perhaps not a baby, but a toddler.
So, how are you going to? I know this is going to be a series, so it won't be. So, how are we going to get to see this? Where do we need to go? Is it going to be on YouTube? Is it going to be on a website?
All right.
Where do we need to go for us to keep up with what you're doing?
I've partnered up with Zelda Universe, which obviously makes sense. An entire web series based on the Legend of Zelda, you need to put it in the quote-unquote Zelda universe. So that's pretty much where it's going to be. All the episodes, when they debut, they're going to be on Zelda Universe. You have to go there first to get the link, because I will not leave a link on my YouTube page in the upload section. Because they're really working with me and helping me to make this happen. So I want to give these guys credit in terms of helping me, giving me a media platform to push it out under. So everyone would need to go to Zelda Universe. The way we have it structured, it's going to come out once a week like a manga. That's how I'm putting it out. So, and I'm putting out like every Thursday morning. So when people go and read Bleach and One Piece and Naruto, then you also go and see what's the name of this thing here? The Order of Time. I'm even going to try to see if they can link it, a copy of it on one of these famous manga websites where you go there and it takes you to a link to Zelda Universe and you can see it there as well in your favorite manga area. So that's pretty much what I'm working on right now. But the first episode is, this, I don't think you guys understand. What is happening here is so righteous. Like, they need to, this may turn into an animated series. Like, this is how godlike it is. And a lot of people will go, well, this doesn't make any sense. All of these things, man, all of these things make sense. I know some of these fans are going to say, what, TriForce, what are you talking about? And they're going to get upset. But I'm going to just say this and just you're going to have faith in me, guys. Listen, the whole timeline, the third timeline where Link dies, that's canon. That's how godlike the story is. That's canon. Even that is canon. The whole Hyrule Historia book is canon. The main timeline that I talk about from one end to another, that's canon. Everything. It's because this story that I'm writing outside of time is what makes it canon.
Okay. So you said it's the possibility that it could go animated. Go ahead.
My main thing is that the story, the impact of the story. The production of this entire web series will improve over time as I raise money either through donations or sponsorship to get better equipment so that we can work on and like do better animations and things like that. But the driving force of this entire project is the story. It's the story that's going to make everything work, because this entire web series is going to be told by the game. The game is going to tell the story. I am not going to, yes, the original story that I'm working on is going to support it, but I'm not writing anything, like I'm not rewriting the Legend of Zelda. That's the first thing I want to say to people. I am not rewriting the entire script for the Legend of Zelda. I'm just creating an original story that that supports the current story for the Legend of Zelda along with Hyrule Historia. That's all I'm really doing. So the way I tell this story, in fact, everyone should be able to get the gist of what I'm going for in the first episode that comes out on Thursday. You'll get because in the beginning of the episode, it explains the concepts, plural, of time. What happens if certain things happen in time. Then it tells you, it introduced the character, because the main character of this side story, obviously I put myself in it, because if you watch the trailer, it said, that whole thing that I read to you, the whole like little what's the word for this storyline, where it's like, this is a story about an untold legend, and that little teaser. If you look at the bottom, it tells you who wrote that. It's written on a scroll, and it says TriForce of Chronos. And,
yes, I saw that. I noticed that.
And pretty much this character, if the character had a name, the character's name is Chronos, but I am not giving this character a name. My character will not have a name. My character will just have a title, and his title is called TriForce of Chronos. That's all. What does that mean? You'll find out on Thursday. Anyone who's played Chrono Trigger or Chrono Cross, do the math. They'll already get it. Yeah, with that character plays a very pinnacle role, and this character plays the evolutionary role, or helps to develop the evolutionary role of Link. So everyone's going to see, at the end of the whole series, everyone's going to see Link in a way they've never seen Link before. And then it's going to all make sense. Everything's going to make sense.
It kind of reminds me of what you was talking about in the podcast we did a while ago or last year, where you kind of talked about a link that encompass all the links. Is it kind of alluding to that?
Whoa, let's not talk about that, because you're ruining it. See,
okay, I'll stop. Okay. You said that you got some places where, people like, when you come on my podcast or our podcast, me and Mr. Live, shout out to Live, shout out to K-Bum, you sometimes cause the biggest stir on my channel. When TriForce is a guest, those videos tend to do well. I mean, a lot of mine do well, but just about everyone that you show up on, especially the one about Zelda, was really high views. So when people want to support you, where can they go to, if you need funds, if you need assistance, maybe, to get the word out for people can, come to the site and check you out and get to take part in what you're doing. Where would all that stuff be? Like if you need PayPal and all that, do you have all that set up yet, or is that still a work in progress?
Well, that's currently, because I as you know, I own an esports team in Empire Arcadia. But right now I try to separate that from what I'm doing, because this project is by me personally. Yes, I'm the CEO and the founder of Empire Arcadia, so by extension. But I don't want to mingle this with what I do with Empire Arcadia. This is me as a Zelda fan. And I want to just focus on this with other Zelda fans around the world and Nintendo. So I don't want to necessarily commingle it. Yes, by extension, it's involved with Empire Arcadia because I'm the CEO, the founder. But if anyone wants to send any support, I hope you can put it on your podcast. Please send any donations to TriForce at EmpireArcadia.com via PayPal. You can, if you have a PayPal account, that's great. You just put in that email address, TriForce at EmpireArcadia.com, and send any of your donations. The donations will go to us we're trying to get Sony Vega so that we can get like a better what's the word for this?
Animations or
well, yeah, that's
graphics.
We can get better production tools to make better episodes because now we spent an arm and a leg just to get Premiere and so forth and get a graphics a capture card for what we use so that we can capture most of these games and put it together. But there's a lot of things that we're missing that we need to really get and to help push this in, plus a lot of work that needs to be done. So, this is really our life. This is how our life works. This is what we do. This is my job. So we need some donations and supports to help push that forward and put out these episodes. A lot of people may be asking, well, how many episodes is going to be there? Well, here's the good news with that. We're talking about almost 100 episodes, and it's going to take a year and a half to complete this entire thing because we're going to go through every single applicable Zelda game to the timeline. Now, notice what I said, applicable Zelda game to the timeline. At the end of the entire series, we're going to probably have an episode or two where we talk about some bonus stuff, some cameo games that I can slide in if I wanted to, and I just show, but I won't do that because I need to let the future of the end of the series be open for Nintendo to potentially create a game off of this project that I'm doing, because I'm going to set it up where I'm not going to end it. I want the actual video game to end it, and when you play the video, if let's say Nintendo makes the game, right? If you complete the game, it sets the entire timeline straight, and then it grants Nintendo the flexibility to go forward, backwards, or in the middle of time and put any game anywhere, wherever they want to, how so they see fit.
Okay, let me ask you this: since we're talking about Nintendo, you talked about that you had an interview with Eiji Aonuma.
Yes,
and due to that interview or that discussion or that conversation, he helped bring about the alter of your take. So how did that play in? How does EG play in to all this?
So I don't know if people have seen it, but if they go to Zelda Universe, they kind of put out a new article not too long ago about my take on the whole timeline situation and the project. And in there's a question that they asked me about, the same question you just asked me about EG and so forth. In 2012, when I went to E3, I asked EG what would he think about creating a Zelda game where Link would go through certain games in the Legend of Zelda series to try to do tasks there that helped fix time because, something was going to happen and someone was going to try to introduce a paradox in time and destroy the entire timeline of Zelda, but Link would have to go and try to stop it. And he pretty much loved the idea. He was like, I like the idea. He's like, we might just do that. The video's on YouTube. I'm sure I'll give you a link so you can put it out there so people can take a look at the interview itself. It's subtitled because some of the words are kind of distorted. Actually, it was Mr. T who else you show who helped me subtitle. Mr. T kind of fixed that for me, and he subtitled it so people can actually you can hear it or it's legible to read so you can hear what he says. It was that right there that made me say, okay, well, let me take a look at something here. And here's something that's funny. Okay, I don't want to kind of like contradict any of Nintendo's words or anything like that, but I want to kind of put something out there. When you look at the entire Zelda timeline that is out right now, you'll notice that a lot of the how can I explain this? There's been a lot of different news in regards to Zelda and if it has a timeline, if it does not, and all this other stuff. If you really look at it, when Zelda 3 first came out, Miyamoto said that none of the Zelda games connect. They all happen in alternate realities. They're alternately different, such and such and such. And everyone was like, oh. Later on, then they made Ocarina of Time. And Nintendo at that time still denied that there was a timeline. And it's like, there's no timeline, guys. You guys got to understand that these are just different Zeldas. We could make a timeline, but there is no timeline. In 2000, then Wind Waker came out and whatnot. And then in 2011, EG said, all of the, and I'm quoting him here, all of the games are within one timeline for the entire series. But that timeline is a secret that he cannot reveal. That's a quote. That came out of EG's mouth directly.
Okay.
Right? Then in 2012, I created one timeline, which all the current games out at that time, because at the Skyward Sword wasn't even out yet when I made that timeline. Skyward Sword was coming out later. And when Skyward Sword came out, I was like, okay, Skyward Sword's in the beginning, so it's a perfect place to fit it, whatever. But it went from not having a timeline to having one main timeline to then Hyrule Historia saying it has 3 timelines.
Right.
So what I take from this is, when you look at it in hindsight 2020, is that the fans have completely influenced Nintendo to pretty much, and this is what I love about Nintendo, because they do it subtly. You won't even notice until you pay attention to it. But they're always there for their fans. And Nintendo went out and got Hyrule Historia created for them. They did the best that they can with the book and so forth. It pleased a lot of fans, but then there are a lot of other fans who are not, taking to it and whatnot. This is where, after talking to EG, I felt, something? Perhaps if I can somehow create a platform for them to take a look at creating a one-stream timeline as EG originally wanted to be versus to what it is now with Hyrule Historia, perhaps they would follow it. But in order to do that, an original story would need to be made to give Nintendo that platform. Then on top of it, when I told them about a video game that can literally fix the timeline by playing the game, and that gives Nintendo yet another Zelda to play, this will be perfect. So when all of that came together, I was like, something, TriForce, you need to make the Order of Time, which, like, the title isn't new. Like, this title is the same title I used when I did the 3-part YouTube series where I explain one stream timeline. That's why I just decided to just use it. And
okay. Oh, go ahead. My bad. I didn't want to interrupt you.
And based on this original story that I've made, it literally gives Hyrule Historia, my theory of the timeline, and Nintendo to, just go ham on it, and it will please everyone, because it literally it doesn't delegitimize anything. It complements everything.
Okay. So, without really going into detail on your current reworking timeline, and without countering the Hyrule Historia timeline of 3 timelines, kind of, you shared this with us, all those who was in that podcast and all those who listened, but it might be a lot of people that didn't. Kind of for a second, put each Zelda game in order to how you explain it in that podcast, if you don't mind. Like, what game started, of course, would be, for right now, would be, I think, Skyward Sword. But from Skyward Sword to... all
right. Without going into details, I'm just going to say the timeline straight. It is Skyward Sword, Ocarina of Time. Then there's a break. So when we have the break now, we have what we call artificial timeline A and original timeline or main timeline A. So you have main timeline A and an artificial timeline A. And the reason why it's called artificial timeline A is because artificial timeline A is still using the past of main timeline A. So let's go into artificial timeline A because it's very short. Artificial timeline A goes as Wind Waker, Phantom of the Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, Minish Cap, and then Four Swords Adventures. That's the artificial timeline. An untold story for its own past will be another Minish Cap game which you play during the time the Minish Cap first started. But that's if in that artificial timeline, if Nintendo wanted to make a Skyward Sword type Minish Cap game, that would be the artificial timeline's A's past. But so far it's sharing the past of main timeline. Let's return back down to the main timeline. Main timeline continues from Ocarina of Time as Majora's Mask, Hyrule Warriors, yes, Hyrule Warriors, right? Twilight Princess, space for a number of different Zelda games Nintendo wants to put in until the Imprisoning War happens, then Zelda A Link to the Past, then Zelda A Link Between Worlds, then Oracles of Seasons and Ages, then A Link's Awakening, then Zelda 1, then Zelda 2, then the cartoon, and then the 3 Zelda CDI games.
Oh, okay. All right. So I didn't know you was gonna add in I didn't know you was gonna add in those, but that's pretty cool.
And one of the Easter eggs at the end, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but I'll just throw this in there for right now. That is that I could, if I wanted to, make Link Crossbow Training and what's the name of this other game? Link's Crossbow Training and Soul Calibur 2. With Link in it, I can make that canon as well. Tetra, a puzzle game that they had, that would be canon in the artificial timeline. That could also be canon there. But that's the main timeline. Now, for those who's like, oh no, TriForce is going to add the cartoon and the CDI games. So let me just say this now. I'm just letting you know how when I look at the entire timeline. In this project that I'm doing, I will not mention those games in. The timeline will end at Zelda 1 because I would have to wait for Nintendo to create or potentially create the Order of Time game, because right after Zelda 1 would be the Order of Time. Exactly what? Like, why is the Order of Time there? Here's the thing about the Order of Time game. The Order of Time game is omnipresent. It exists in all times.
Okay.
So if Nintendo did make that game, it would exist in all times. So it doesn't. It can exist in between every single Zelda game ever. Period. Ever.
So that's one game. So that's one of the games that you saying that Nintendo is another game that you mentioned about a war. Or how did you?
The Imprisoning War happens before A Link to the Past. The Imprisoning War happens before the Link to the Past, but then after Twilight Princess. Okay. This new Zelda game that's coming out could potentially take place after Twilight Princess. But I doubt it's going to be the Imprisoning War. The Imprisoning War, this is what people have to understand. And this is why I have to hurry up with this project, because I want Nintendo to take a look at this project before considering making this, finalizing the story for the next Zelda game. The Imprisoning War takes place where there is a place in time where Link does not exist, meaning Link is not there.
Right.
The Order of Time allows the Order of Time somewhere down in the storyline is going to create a time frame, a hole where Link doesn't exist. And then the Imprisoning War Nintendo can create an Imprisoning War game where there is no Link. There could be every other character in Zelda, but there is no Link. But I want to leave that to Nintendo, because the issue here is creating an opportunity for Nintendo to try different things with the Legend of Zelda without having to use Link as a crutch. That's the whole purpose. So when I created this original storyline for the Order of Time, it gives Nintendo the supporting platform to do that. So once that's over with, now if Nintendo goes, thank you, TriForce, this was a great series, but we're not interested in making an Order of Time game, then I will finish the entire web series in a perhaps full animated, like cartoon type, like a fully animated separate entity and whatnot, and it'll just play as a film that supports the main timeline. But it's up to Nintendo. But I would prefer, rather than making a film, I would prefer to actually play the game. I'm even writing down the items for the game and everything. And it plays like a traditional Zelda. The tasks have the traditional tasks, all of that stuff. In fact, in the intro of the first episode, you're going to see some of the items. 10 of the items are going to automatically be introduced in the intro, and you're going to be like, oh my God, this is godlike. That's like Link doing this in Ocarina of Time and then doing that in this game. It's all going to be laid out. Zelda fans will pick it out instantaneously, all explained in the first episode.
Okay. Well, it seems like, man, you got a lot going on with this, man, and you said it premieres this Thursday on ZeldaUniverse.net.
Yes, ZeldaUniverse.net.
And what I'm going to try to do for you guys, I'm going to try to include the premiere. It's like a 35-second introduction video. I'm going to try to have that at the beginning of this podcast so you don't have to go searching for it. It just be a part of this podcast, and you get to see the setup and the plot kind of unfold, give you a little teaser. But from what I've seen and listening to that video teaser, man, it really seems to be a real cool adventure being set up here. And I'm very curious of where you're gonna take it, because I'm not new to the Zelda series, but I'm not as learned as you guys are. I love Zelda, but I don't pick up all the nuggets that I hear you speak on. It's like y'all are very astute when it comes to this series, and so sitting down listening to you talk about it is really making me excited and anticipating this series, man. So Thursday, what time can we look for it on Thursday?
That I don't know, because the Zelda Universe will they'll get the episode ahead of time, and they will just determine when they're going to put it out on their website. I would say check in the early afternoon Eastern time on Thursday.
Okay.
Should be there. So anytime during that time, everyone will be safe. I implore everyone, please, I need your help. If you guys can help me out, I would really appreciate it. So send any donations, no matter how little, to my PayPal. It'll be here on the live and Level and Live podcast. To TriForce at EmpireKD.com via PayPal, and I look to, hopefully everyone will like it. We're trying to really make the first episode like epic in terms of the story. Like, we're trying to make it epic. It's so godlike. Now, here's a question. Here's a statement, because I was going to ask myself a self-question. So a lot of people may be wondering, well, what game am I going to start off with? And we're going to start in the present, both in the game and in real life. And the game we're going to start off with is Hyrule Warriors, because what happens in Hyrule Warriors gave me the start point for this whole series. Because I originally, let's say there was no Hyrule Warriors, I was going to start with Skyward Sword. But because of Hyrule Warriors, I'm like, oh man, when we did the whole story, like, yes, we'll start with Hyrule Warriors then. And from there, from Hyrule Warriors, we'll be able to bring it back and then start back, and then it will go through the whole timeline and stuff like this.
Okay. So I'm pretty much you're going to share what about Hyrule Warriors sparked. Is that going to be shown or in the
definitely. Definitely.
Because I don't want to ask, and knowing it's coming, then you don't have to spoil nothing. So we could just
It's so real, yo. Level. It is so real, yo. I don't even think you understand. It's so real. It's like all of the footage I need to present the timeline, I don't even have to make it up. It's in the game. This is the part that I like about it. I'm like, remember when I was on the last podcast and I kept saying they don't need to rewrite anything. The games tell the story itself. It literally tells you the timeline. The game tells you the time. You don't have to, pick out this and try to make that, like the whole part with the hero dies. When did the hero ever die? That's the one thing I disagree with the Hyrule Historia. Let's ask ourselves a question. We played all the Zeldas, right?
Right.
What Zelda game ends with Link dying?
None.
So then, where did they come up with the third timeline that Link dies?
I think it was with what was the one? The one right after Ocarina of Time.
No, it breaks from Ocarina of Time.
Okay.
So what they're pretty much trying to say is, now I can, because first of all, it doesn't make sense if Link dies, right? If Link dies, and it breaks off into an alternate time, then there would be no, what's the word for this? There would be no realm with Link or Zelda. Once Ganon wins, whatever that timeline is in, my friend is making jokes because he overheard me ask the question, which Zelda game does Link dies? And he says the one you quit because you suck at it. Yes, that would actually be a good way that he dies. But I think what Hyrule Historia meant to go on and say is that should Ganon get the Triforce of Power and rule Hyrule, that it breaks off into another game. But even so, it still doesn't make sense. The games tell you, right?
Right.
The games tell you Ganon gets sealed. Ganon gets sealed 3 times in the entire universe of Zelda. Throughout the entire timeline of Zelda, Ganon gets sealed 3 times in the Golden Land. At that, he gets sealed 3 times. I'm not gonna say what it is because in the Order of Time it'll show you where he gets sealed. The issue is to understand when he got sealed, right? When he got sealed, that mattered the most. And the one that mattered the most that he got sealed in, Nintendo has not made the game for it yet, which is called the Imprisoning War. That is the true sealing of Ganon in the Golden Land. Every other time they've sealed Ganon off in different like the sacred realm, which is actually the Golden Land, but that's in the alternate future. That's the end of Ocarina of Time. The next one they sealed him off was in which actually no, because that's a part of it. That still counts as one. And the other time that they sealed him off outside of the Golden, well, actually that would be the Imprisoning War. Actually, so funny. He's been sealed 3 times, but by timeline standards, in terms of the lore, he's only been sealed once.
Okay.
And when you see it,
that's deep. I can't keep up with all. I don't.
It's slightly confusing. It's slightly confusing, but I made sure how I'm explaining it will not be how it's explained in the actual web series. In the actual web series, it will be what's the word? It will be explained in an articulate, clear, concise manner, and then you're gonna be like, oh, but because this happened, although he was sealed, this didn't happen, and that's why he's not sealed. And then, and then it happened again, but because this didn't happen, blah, blah, blah. And then when it finally happens, that's the original, that's the true sealing. Okay. Which you will see. And what I mean by the true sealing, I'm talking about being sealed in the Golden Land, not being sealed in time, not being sealed by the Master Swords. Those are the times that he was sealed in those times. But like the seal that matters the most, this entire story is based off of the Imprisoning War. Right. The Imprisoning War is the most important thing. And And before Nintendo switches off to their new Nintendo system within the next 5 years, I hope Nintendo make 2 Zelda games, the one that they're currently working on now and in the Imprisoning War, because the Imprisoning War and every Zelda fan in the universe is going to agree with you. Watch. I'm calling it right now before you even put this out on YouTube. If you read below in the YouTube section, every Zelda fan is going to tell you in the YouTube section, TriForce is right. The Imprisoning War needs to be a real-time strategy game. It has to be. Or make it like the game, like let's say Nintendo decides to make another Hyrule Warriors 2. Hyrule Warriors 2, the Imprisoning War. There's a game that the people who make Dynasty Warriors make. It's called Dynasty Warriors Empires. It's a real-time strategy action adventure game. So it plays like Hyrule Warriors normally, but they have the real-time strategy element of it in terms of controlling armies and going through an entire war. So, okay. and because you have the Nintendo Wii U gamepad, that will be the perfect way to manage that game. That will be Hyrule Warriors 2, The Imprisoning War. Koei, if you're listening to me, Koei, Nintendo, stop playing games. Listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. Hyrule Warriors 2 needs to be the Imprisoning War. You need to follow the same engine you've done for Dynasty Warriors Empires. Make this happen. Just make sure Link's not in it so you don't make all this work I'm doing with the Order of Time nonsense. So just take Link out of the game.
It was the one I couldn't remember the name of the game. But Majora's Mask was the one I was trying to say back then. But I never understood where Majora's Mask fit in.
Majora's Mask happens literally. Majora's Mask happens right after the end of Ocarina of Time. Majora's Mask is Ocarina of Time 2.5. No, Ocarina of Time 2.0.
Okay.
Because
so then this is the one they assumed that Zelda Link was dead, right?
Link disappeared for a while, but the Imprisoning War still didn't happen. Nintendo has to create another game and another story that shows Link disappearing. But this is why I think it happens after. This is why I think. The Imprisoning War happens after Twilight Princess. Because Twilight Princess's ending is very open-ended. They don't show you what happens to Ganon. So Nintendo has all the room to do whatever they want in that game. This new Zelda game that's coming out may be right after Twilight Princess. Honestly speaking, it may be right after Twilight Princess because Ganon gets stabbed in his chest and Link leaves the Master Sword in his chest.
Right, you're right. You're right. I didn't really pay no attention to it, but they did not really show what happened.
That's it.
And it just walks off.
And then Zant, he crooks his neck and it's like he turns off Ganon and Ganon dies standing up and it fades. There's no end. Like, okay, what does that mean? So I'm glad Nintendo did that because it gives them all the room to do whatever they want to do next. I'm hoping this new Zelda game that they have coming out for the Wii U is a continuation of that. And there is no Ganon. And then Link, has to fight somebody else or whatever the case may be. And then after that, they use this way to kind of remove this new Zelda game. Like at the end, it removes Link from the storyline. Link is suddenly gone for whatever reason Nintendo wants to make up, which then can introduce the Imprisoning War, which that Nintendo that would be a great opportunity for Nintendo to create the next Hyrule Warriors, which you can make.
Could this be possible? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking outside the box. You got me thinking.
Yeah.
If Ganon is gone, right?
No, Ganon's not gone.
No, I'm just saying, like you said at the end of Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
They leave the Master Sword in Ganon, and you say Zant snaps his leg, and he kind of fades, right?
Yeah.
Okay, if the powers that be, the ones from that kind of has Zelda and Link all tied together, if Ganon is gone or is temporarily, seemingly subdued, could that leave the need for Link not needed, and he disappears for that moment, or he?
Oh, exactly. And you see, and that this is what I'm talking about. Since Ganon is gone and whatnot, or perceivably no longer a threat, because the Master Sword is inside of Ganon, stuck in his chest now, right? Which is funny because that's two instances in time where a similar event in two separate aspects of one main timeline that happens. Something else like that happens again. Those are called bridging elements. You can rebridge time because of stuff like that, but we're not going to necessarily go there. We're not necessarily going to go there. But in any case, if Link disappears, someone can simply have the sword removed from Ganon's chest, and then Ganon now does what he has to do or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he comes back and he creates the Imprisoning War, and then there's a huge war over it and whatnot. Someone else picks up the Master Sword, because, actually it wouldn't even have to pick up the Master Sword. This is Nintendo's free reign. I don't want to ruin it by trying to create anything. That's Nintendo's job. Their job is to create the games. My job is to create a supporting story that can get all these aspects of the whatever ideas they want to brainstorm in Nintendo headquarters out. So that's pretty much it. But they have a lot of free space, and my job is to make sure that the Order of Time, lays out this great platform for them, especially with this thing this thing that's going to happen with Link. The more I talk, you can tell I'm trying to stop myself from giving away the story. I really don't want to give out any details.
Well, I'm gonna let you off the hook, man. We gonna bring it. Because I got so much I want to ask, and I know if I do, I'm just gonna open up a can of worms and you're gonna explode on me. So
yeah.
But I'm excited, man. This might seem geeky to a lot of people, but if you're a Zelda fan, all this stuff is very interesting. I'm really starting to pay attention to the lore. That's something I just played the game and beat the game. I really didn't pay attention to what was going on in the game until after Ocarina of Time. And then I kind of started focusing in, really with Twilight Princess, I started focusing in on the story elements and how things was transpiring. So I'm kind of late and I'm kind of playing catch up. So listening to you and, there's some of the people that was on with Tony Rendy and Mizza T and others who was on the last podcast we did, is really bringing up all those old memories of some of the games that I played, the nuggets that was there that I really wasn't paying attention to. But listening to you, man, is really causing me to want to go back and really not necessarily play the game, but if I could just sit there and watch the story elements unfold, man, and really bring myself up to speed on what's going on. But I'm looking forward to this thing Thursday. I can't wait. So this Thursday on ZeldaUniverse.net. Make sure you're there. We don't know what time they're going to upload it, but it will be this Thursday. Also, if you want to help TriForce in his endeavors, please send funds and things. We have all this down in the description. And you can, if you want to aid financially, you can do that as well. Any final things you want to share?
Other than thank you for having me on board. Shout outs to Nintendo. Good stuff on the new Smash Brothers. Jump off. That's a whole nother topic altogether.
Yeah.
The new Smashes that they got us. Shout out to PDP for making a Link controller for the new Smash Brothers, which I am copying, just putting it out there right now. So I'm copying that controller ASAP. Shout outs to Miyamoto, shout outs to EG, shout outs to Reggie, everybody at Nintendo, man. Thank you, Chris from Golden Nintendo, and thank you, Allison. You guys have been a great help. Thank you, everyone at Zelda Universe, for making this possible. And I'm going to be working very hard to support everybody. And also, shout outs to everybody at each EMP. From Mewtwo King and Armada to KDZ and the rest of the crew.
Oh, cool. I just want to say, man, I really enjoy when you come on, man. The knowledge and the insight you have on these games, man, really be schooling me. When I say school them, I'm not joking. You really be bringing me up to speed on stuff that I've been playing for pretty much since I've been 5. Since I was 5 to now, is a lot of stuff that I guess I just was not paying attention to. And listening to you really opens it up, man. And I really get to see the lure and get to see the story in a way that I never saw it before. So it's always a pleasure to have you on. And your riches and your understanding, man, is always a pleasure. I want to send a shout out to my boy, Mr. L Live, who couldn't be here. Yes, Mr. L Live is still a part of this podcast. He's going through some things on his end, and once he get all that settled, he'll be back. I'm gonna send a shout out to my boy K-Bum and John Shaw and all those who help with this podcast. But thank y'all for tuning in and support this, and make sure you tune in and check it out, and keep giving TriForce Johnson your feedback. Well, let's do this, man. After we watch the original episode, how about we come back and let the listeners have questions if they want to ask things of you. We can get a few questions, and I can ask them to you and give your and get feedback from those who watched it.
I'm with it.
That'd be cool.
I'm definitely with it. You can have them.
Okay.
Have those guys put their questions in your YouTube below. Guys, put your questions there, and then, Level will ask me those questions on the next time, right after the interview, the next time I'm on, and I'll answer your questions.
Send them to me if you follow me on Twitter. I'll leave my Twitter address. Hit me up on Twitter as well, because I can really track them. I know you asking a specific question, So we can ask TriForce these questions after we watch the premiere episode. But with that being said, this is your boy Levelhead signing out. Thank y'all for tuning in. Please be there this Thursday on ZeldaUniversity.net. That is Zelda University.
No, Zelda Universe.
Universe. ZeldaUniverse.net. That is ZeldaUniverse.net this Thursday for the first episode. It will be premiering this Thursday. And with that being said, we signing out. Deuces.